Where'd you find my life jacket?
Okay. So my first, my maiden name is Maribel DiCierto. Maribel being Mexican and Spanish, and DiCierto being Filipino. Let's start with my Mexican side. My mother's parents one of them came from Guanajuato, Mexico, and the other one came from Chihuahua, Mexico. Wherever my grandparents met, I don't know exactly, but I know that my grandfather was a traveling salesman, and he would travel to Santa Paula from Mexico, come back and forth selling different items, whether it be leather or whatever it was that he was selling. And then would come back and forth, and finally decided to stay. So they immigrated this way. And everybody immigrated. There wasn't any issues with them immigrating this way. They had already been coming back and forth, so it was really easy for them to do that. And half of my aunts and uncles were born here, and the others were born in Mexico, including my mother. So on my biological father's side, his dad is from Zamboanga, Cebu, in Philippines. And his dad, whom I call Tata, was used to be a school teacher. And him and his cousin decided they wanted to come to the United States. So they went and jumped on a boat illegally, and his cousin jumped on a different boat. And so the boat that my grandpa jumped on came here to California, and the boat that his cousin jumped on went to Hawaii. And so my grandfather came here and started working in the fields and doing whatever jobs here and there. And he met my grandmother in Mexico. And so all of their kids and stuff were born over there. But since my grandfather became a citizen here, he migrated my grandmother over there to the United States.
So he was working in Mexico?
Yeah, he was working back and forth from here to Mexico.
Oh, like the same thing?
Yeah, same thing, back and forth. But he worked like in the fields and stuff. And then when they came here, they were working in the fields and in the packing places. And as far as their economical status, I think was different from before, because it's different now than it was before, because they only got their essentials, and we weren't so technologically advanced than they were before, and so they only needed to work for what they needed for. But now, my parents, like they went to school and stuff. So students, as you know, are poor. So we were poor in the beginning, but as they progressed and they got their degrees and they got older, they were they were financially stable, which allowed us to be financially stable.
Yeah. Wait, so how did your grandpa meet your grandma?
I guess from my understanding is that he was in Mexico for what reason, I don't know. Nobody's ever told me. But he was in Mexico, and my grandma, he saw my grandma like at a store or passing by, whatever, by where she was at, and he liked her, and they started going out and stuff like that.
That's from
my father's side. And on my grandma's side, on my mom's side, I don't know that story. I just know that they met after he was divorced with his first wife. My grandparents met. I don't know where they met though. So.
And then how did they end up? Where did they end up in the end?
Where did they end up? So my mom's mom was from Guanajuato. My mom's dad is from Chihuahua, and they ultimately ended up in Santa Paula, California. My biological father's dad is from Zamboanga, Cebu in the Philippines, and my biological father's mother is from Mexicali, Mexico,
Mm.
and they wound up both in Oxnard, California. Then
Mm.
I wound up I was born in Oxnard, California, but I was raised in San Jose, California, and
Mm.
moved back to Oxnard when I was 17.
Okay. Wait, when did they have Tata?
What do you mean? Like,
Like where? I mean.
in Mexico? They had all their kids in Mexico.
Oh.
And grandma's parents had half of her kids in Mexico and half of her kids
And grandma was one of the ones
in Mexico.
she was.
Tata was born in Mexicali and grandma was born in Mexicali. They were actually both born in Mexicali, but they didn't know each other.
Hmm. Oh, I didn't know that.
I didn't know that not so long ago either.
Mm.
But yeah. What else do you want to know? You want to know how beautiful your mother is? I could go on and on about that.
Yeah.
Which means I met your dad in Oxnard, California. This is why you're in Oxnard, California.
Hmm.
But if I would have never moved back from San Jose, who knows where you'd be right now?
Why'd you move to San Jose?
Because my mom remarried and her husband now, whom I call dad, who raised me since I was 2.5, was a student at San Jose State University. So we moved to San Jose because we were waiting for him to graduate, and we stayed up there.
Grandma wasn't in school at that time?
No, she quit school. She only had a year left after I was, because I was born.
Mm.
She was a student at UCSB.
Mm.
And then she had me, and so after a while, she decided to take care of me and go to work. And so she was working. We lived in Isla Vista, and then from there, because Grandpa Doyle's family is from Santa Barbara, and she was actually working with Auntie Debbie. And then Auntie Debbie invited her over to one of the barbecues, and that's where she met Grandpa Doyle. And Grandpa Doyle was down for like one of the holidays or whatever, or just down for the weekend, and that's how he met Grandma. And then they decided to get together, and we moved up to San Jose. And we were there ever since. And then so Grandpa Doyle got transferred to L.A. because he worked for Philip Morris, and he decided to get transferred. He didn't decide to get transferred. They transferred him to L.A., Pasadena, so we had to move back out here.
Oh. So he would go from Oxnard to his work in Pasadena?
No, so we moved to Santa Barbara for 6 months, and then they moved to the Valley, and I moved to Oxnard.
Who moved to the Valley?
Grandma and Grandpa Doyle.
Oh.
They moved to West Hills, and I moved to Oxnard.
Who'd you move with?
I moved in with Tata for a year, and then after that, I moved in with your abuelita and abuelito, because by then I was already with your dad, and we already had Angelique. So we lived in Port Hueneme, California.
Oh, and that same house they moved into, that was the one when we were little, we always went to.
Yeah. Yep. My life's not very interesting. Unless you want to go way, way back, then I don't know exactly how, but apparently my grandmother's great-grandfather or grandfather? No, my grandmother's grandfather was Ignacio Zaragoza, who was a general in the Mexican Revolution. See, so I mean, we have a lot of history like that, but as far as migrating from place to place, we didn't do much of the migrating. That was done many years before I even was born.
Mm.
Many, many years. Many, many years. I think the only one that I have that like closely migrated was my tata, which is Tata's dad. And he migrated a long time ago from the Philippines. So, what else do you need to know?
Like stuff on a more personal level, like was it hard like to move and all that? Or, like,
Was it hard? Like, I think if you don't know what you have, like if you don't know that you're poor, you don't feel it. You don't
you know,
unless you know the difference of what being poor is and what being rich is. I mean, granted, like when I was in school, there was kids that had things that I didn't have, but all my friends didn't have what I didn't have, so it wasn't like I missed it or whatever. And we didn't have like all the video games and all that. I mean, we had like Atari, but I mean, you literally had to be rich to own one of those. But like we played outside and made things and played with bugs and stuff like that outside. So like for us, it was like we didn't know that we were poor in an apartment in a ghetto complex and stuff like that. I mean, now I know, but I didn't think I was poor growing up. So I don't think it affected me in any way, shape, or form. It made me street savvy. That's about it. But but other than that, I don't think it I didn't know like I was poor or anything like that. I don't think I ever thought that I went without. I mean, I'm pretty sure I did, but you know.
Like, what do you think made you value like that your kids need to go like to school? Like, it's like education is like a priority.
Because I didn't go to school, and you know, I wanted to make sure that you didn't struggle for anything as far as, because your dad and I, when we got together, we were teenagers. So we didn't have everything normal adults should have had when they have kids. You know what I mean? Like, we lived with your grandparents for 6 years. We didn't have our own house like most people have houses, you know. And then they have the kids or whatever like that. So it wasn't, you know, it wasn't like that. We didn't have all that stuff that we should have had as adults having kids, but we weren't adults. We were kids that had kids. So, and we wanted to make sure that you guys, you know, do something that you like to do, and whether you get paid or not is not a priority to you, because it's something that you're gonna it's what's gonna make you happy. You know what I mean? So, I mean, if you do something that you like that's gonna make you happy, then I would rather you do that and not hardly make any money, because you're gonna wake up every day and be like, I love my job. Right? Instead of being, I don't want to do this, I don't want to go there, because then you'll be financially stable, and you won't have to worry about that. Then if you guys choose to plan to have kids, at least you'll have something to fall back on. Because you can find a job anywhere. You can find a job at McDonald's, you can find a job at Ross, you can find a job anywhere. That's a job. But if you want to find a career, you have to go to school.
Yeah.
There's a difference between a job and a career. We want you to have a career, not a job. And what else? I'm just flowing.
What else is there?
What else do you need to know?
Were there any like turning points in your life, or
Turning points in my life. Like what? Give me an example. You have to
Like something like that you had to make a decision on. Like, I don't know.
Probably when I first got pregnant, I had to decide whether I wanted to go out and party or do I want to stay home and be a parent.
Hmm.
That's a big decision right there. Do I want to party? Do I want to become a responsible parent? That's life changing right there for me.
Wait, when you
I'm not that I was partying before, but that's just.
when you were with like when you were in San Jose, who did you? You had Uncle Eric and
Uncle Adrian, and that was it. Oh, and your Uncle Sheldon. We all. Well, first it was just me, Uncle Eric, and Uncle Adrian, Grandma, and Grandpa, and then after a while, Sheldon came to live with us, and then we were living in an apartment. First it was just me, Grandma, and Grandpa Doyle in a studio. I used to sleep on a sleeping bag, and my bed, my table, because we only had like a little table, 2 chairs, and my table was a little crate, and another little crate with a cardboard box on top of it. Now, I didn't know, I mean, now that I'm older, I know that was, I mean, we didn't have anything, like, we were poor back then or whatever, but I didn't know growing up I was poor, because to me, I was like, ooh, I ain't got to eat with them, I eat by myself, I got my own table. I thought I was rich, because I had my own table and stuff, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
But I know now we didn't have stuff, and we lived in a studio. I slept on a beanbag. You know, our shelves was a piece of plywood with cinder blocks. You know those blocks that they use for the fence? That's what we used to. We had a piece of plywood going right there, and then we had another piece of plywood. We had a cinder block, a piece of plywood, and another cinder block, and another piece of plywood, and the 13-inch TV sat on top of the plywood, and all of Grandpa Doyle's books were in between on the little shelf. But I didn't know we didn't have stuff. I mean, that was just like, I thought that's how things were. You don't know. And then from there, once Grandpa Doyle graduated, we got a little money because he had made for Almaden vineyard. He had made a like this grape design because he was like an art / advertising major, and he made like this logo for Almaden, and they used it, so we got a little bit of money from there, and then we moved into an apartment complex. And then we moved from the apartments there, and then he got a job, so then we moved to another apartment complex, and we stayed there growing. That's where I basically grew up, in that apartment complex. That's where Uncle Eric was born. Uncle Adrian was born there. And then when I was 15, we finally got enough to get a house. And then we, like 15 and a half, and then we moved to a different side of town, and we bought a house, and we were only there for a year because by then Grandpa Doyle had gotten moved to LA area. And then that's when we moved down here. But we only moved into a house. That was the only time we had ever had a house. We were able to afford a house.
When did they have you? Like, how old were they?
Grandma was 20 and Tata was 21.
How did they end up getting separated? Like,
how did they get separated? I'm not sure. I'm only going based on what Grandma told me, but Tata used to beat on her all the time, and she couldn't take it anymore. So she got into a fight with him, and she just up and left. And never went back. And then it was just me and her living in Isla Vista for a while. But we lived in Santa Paula for a little bit, and then from there we moved to Isla Vista. And then by the time...
dang, you moved a lot.
I did. I moved... Even when I was in San Jose, I would be in San Jose, and then my grandma would get sick, so grandma would have to move back because we had to come take care of my grandma. So I'd move back like for 3 or 4 months to Santa Paula, and then we moved back to San Jose.
Hmm.
And then it would be okay again, and then my grandma would get sick again, and then we'd have to come back to Santa Paula for like 3 months, and I'd go to school out here, and then we'd go back to San Jose.
Was that?
It was,
Were you used to that?
yeah.
Was it like hard for you? Like,
No, because I make friends real easy, so for me it was easy.
oh, okay.
I don't think for somebody that not very good at making friends, it's easy for them. But for me, I make friends everywhere, so no.
Like when you came back, were your friends still like,
No,
or did you always make new
in
friends?
San Jose, I always had the same friends because I was always longer there in San Jose than I was in Santa Paula.
Mm.
In Santa Paula, I would forget the people that would because it would be like, so like in 3rd grade, I was gone for 3 months, and I don't remember any of those people that I made friends with for those 3 months. And then in the 4th grade, I was there for 4 months, and I don't remember any of those people that I met in the 4th grade. What other year did I? 4th grade, 3rd grade, 5th grade. No, that was it. Just the 3rd and the 4th grade that I can remember. I don't remember I mean, I remember going to school in San Jose from kinder to 3rd grade, but whether or not we moved back and forth, I can't remember. I just remember 3rd grade and 4th grade because we were there for the longest.
Hmm.
So
And the reason you guys always moved was because of.
my grandma would get sick, so we'd have to come take care of her.
Okay.
Even though my grandmom had 7 brothers and sisters, I don't know why it was us that had to come take care of her, but we were the ones that had to come take care of her.
Okay. Wait. So wait. I'm just trying to go over this.
No, go for it.
So your grandpa came here, and the reason for that is he would always like come back and forth like.
Mhm. He was a salesman, traveling salesman.
And then why did he decide to come here? Like just more money or?
I don't know. My parents never told me why he decided to come back here. I guess he was just tired of traveling and decided, I'm just gonna stay here. I don't think there was a rhyme or reason why, if there was, I was never told. I don't know.
The reason he like always like came here in the first place was for like
To come sell whatever it was that he was selling.
And then
Why he wound up here in Santa Paula, I don't know.
oh, okay. And then he met your grandma in Mexico.
He met my grandma in Mexico.
And then they had Tata in Mexicali, or
Wait. Are you talking about which grandparents are you talking about? You can't move from grandparents. You're talking right now about my mom's parents.
no wait.
He's a traveling salesman.
Oh yeah.
My mom's parents are the traveling salesman.
Oh,
They had
okay.
half of their kids here in the United States and half of their kids in Mexico.
Mm.
And it's like in between. So like we can have like the second to the oldest in Mexico, and you could have the next one in Santa Paula.
How were they able to move back and forth? Was it like?
Maybe the immigration wasn't that strict back then.
Oh.
And especially since he was a traveling salesman, he could come back and forth. It wasn't that big of an issue.
And then they had grandma in Mexicali.
And they had Grandma Mexicali.
And then, okay, for Tata's side, your grandpa was, it was your grandpa, right?
My grandpa was from the Philippines.
And then he moved on a boat over here?
He smuggled himself on a boat, and the boat landed him here.
What did he do that for, like, for a better...
better life.
Yeah.
Because they were poor over there. I don't know much of that side of my family, but I know that they were poor over there. That's why he wanted to make a better life for himself. So he jumped on a boat, hoping that it would come to the United States.
Oh yeah.
And it did, because him and his cousin left, but his cousin wound up going to Hawaii, which I wish he would have gone to Hawaii. But his cousin wound up landing on the boat that took him to Hawaii, where he wound up on the boat that took him to California.
Okay.
And they smuggled themselves on a boat.
Hmm. And then he met Grandmarita
In Mexico.
in Mexico. And wait, did they always live in Mexico, or did they?
No, they always lived here.
So they kind of went over here to.
I think he was just went over there for like working, for whatever reason he was working.
So he worked in Mexico,
Yeah. Because where he's from, the type of language that they have is like Tagalog/Spanish, but mostly Spanish. So he spoke a lot of Spanish. So I think it was easy for him to, like, if he needed to get a job, he'd go over to Mexico side if they weren't doing anything over here. I'm not sure exactly how they met. I just know that Grandmarita told me that that she thought that seen her, and he came back and started talking to her, and then they liked each other, and then they started going out. That's all I know.
And then, wait, so he worked in Mexico but lived here in.
I mean, I think he went back and forth.
Oh, like back and forth.
Yeah. As far as I know, I mean, I could be wrong, but that's what I was told. You know, grandparents be changing their stories all the time. Yes. Now, were they poor? Probably. Did they know? Did my parents know that they were poor? Probably not.
They were just trying to survive.
They were just trying to survive. What they needed, technology didn't take over their lives like technology takes over our lives. So things were more simpler back then. So you only need to really work to get you by. You know, as long as you have a roof over your head, blah, 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 blah. You know, but now, like, you need technology for everything. It's not as simple. So you got to be able to make money to buy that technology. You don't buy the technology, you're asked out.
That's true. What else?
That it?
I think that's it. Oh wait, and then so when you finally met, or when Grandma and Tata met,
They both met at UCSB.
They met at UCSB.
I'm a product of UCSB. Make sure you put that in your paper. That I am a product of UCSB.
Oh, okay. And then wait, they just ended up living there in UCSB.
They ended up living there. Well, I believe when they had me, it was summertime because I was born in June and school ends in May. And then when I was 10 days old, we moved to Florida because I had an uncle that lived in Florida and he was going to give my dad a job out there at a restaurant. But when I was like 3 months old, Marcelino burnt his foot. His foot fell in a fryer when he was cleaning it. And he burnt his foot, so they came back to Oxnard, and we lived in Oxnard. And then when I was like 9 months old or whatever, that's when Tata and Grandma split up. And Grandma and I lived in Santa Paula with my grandparents for a little bit, and then we moved to Isla Vista. Like, I moved to Isla Vista when I was like a year and a half.
Wait, so you were in Oxnard first?
I was in Oxnard first. I was born in Oxnard at the old St. John's Hospital that's now old folks home. And then at 10 days old, I moved over to Florida.
Oh.
And then Fort Lauderdale, Florida. And then after that, when I was about 3.5 months or so, 3.5, 4 months, we moved back to Oxnard until I was about 10 months. Then we moved to Santa Paula. And then when I was like about 1.5 years, we moved to Isla Vista. And we stayed in Isla Vista till I was about 2.5. And when I was 2.5, we moved to San Jose. And that's where pretty much I was raised.
So wait, you guys moved from Florida to
Back to Oxnard.
Why was that? Just
Because Marcelino burnt his foot.
so he
He
couldn't.
couldn't work out there.
Oh, so
They moved out there to go work because my uncle had owned a restaurant and he was gonna give Marcelino a job. But Marcelino was working there, but then the dummy didn't put the cover on the fryer. You know how where they make the fries and stuff. He didn't put the cover on because he was supposed to clean the vents, and his foot fell through, and he fell in the hot grease. So his foot's all burnt up.
So he came back.
So he came back.
To get a different job?
Well, to recuperate because his foot was all burnt.
Oh,
So we
okay.
moved in with Grandma Rita. And then when I was like 9.5, 10 months, then Grandma left Tata, and we moved to Santa Paula with my grandparents, with my grandma's parents. And we lived there until about I was 1.5 years. And then after I was 1.5 years, Grandma got a job in Santa Barbara, and we moved to Isla Vista. And then we lived in Isla Vista, and then we stayed there until Grandma met Grandpa Doyle, and they decided to go to San Jose when I was 2.5.
So you guys just move where need be.
I'm a vagabond, or nomads, or what are those ones that travel? I'm a nomad.
Yeah, nomad.
I travel everywhere. Home is where you make it. Home is where you make it. That's my traveling Sisterhood of the Travel Pants story.
Where did Grandpa and Grandma meet?
Grandpa Doyle
Yeah.
and Grandma? I told you. Auntie Debbie used to work with Grandma. Grandpa Doyle was down for the weekend or whatever. And Auntie Debbie invited Grandma over for a barbecue.
Oh.
And they used to live at an old folks home. Grandma, Big Mama and Papa used to run an old folks home. Like they used to take care of. It was kind of like a convalescent. You know where people when they're sick. So they had one side of the house. It was like a big long house with a bunch of rooms, and that's where the old folks stayed. And the kitchen was a part. You can go in through the kitchen through the back, and had like a big old patio. And then they had like a barn, and that's where Grandpa Doyle's brothers and sisters, that's where they used to all live, is out there in the barn. And it was made into like a big warehouse, and they had like beds lined up, and they had the TV, and they had like a little couch area, like a huge studio. But it was a barn, and that's where they stayed. And so we went over there for a barbecue, and that Grandpa Doyle happened to be there. And that's where he met Grandma at a barbecue that Big Mama and Papa had. I don't know for what, but I just know it was a barbecue. But Grandma and Debbie were friends before Grandma and Grandpa Doyle met.
Oh, okay. And they met through
Work.
Oh.
Anything else?
I think that was.
Smells?
I think that's it.
That's it. Okay. Your dad's turn.
Unless there's any more other important stuff. I know.
Other important stuff? You want
That-
about the day that I was born? The day that I was born, Jaws came out. June 30th, 1975. Mom went to the movies to go watch the midnight premiere of Jaws. And apparently I couldn't take it, and there I come.
Wait, so she was watching the movie and then.
She was watching the movie, the 12 o'clock premiere of Jaws. It was 12 o'clock at the movie theater, and her water broke, and there I go. I come, and I'm born at 3:10 in the morning.
So she had to like rush to the hospital. Right?
Yeah, she didn't even get to finish watching the movie. Well, what are you gonna scare me for? I'm in the stomach. What the heck? Peoples. Okay, your dad's turn, because he has to go take your sister.